The first is from Sven Gengel. Steve, given the fact that you were irritated that Trump brought up an incident that happened 200 years ago, do you feel the same way when people bring up slavery in American history? No, and I think that's a good question, and that's a good point, because it allows me to point out the difference. It would be inappropriate for people to bring up slavery now if conditions in the country were such that the legacy of slavery no longer shaped many people's lives, and that's not the case. People don't just bring up slavery to say, yeah, well, what about slavery? They bring it up as a way of tying it to the modern era, to say that slavery being a part of our heritage is reflected in the country that we see today. The United States has not yet completely, or in many cases, has not even really begun to expunge that from its records. You know, the stain of slavery is still on our society today. It's not just something that happened 200 years ago. It's something that we are still dealing with the effects of today. So it's still relevant, even if institutionalized slavery no longer exists as such. Whereas what Trump was doing was he was not only inaccurately describing something that happened 200 years ago when he said to the Prime Minister of Canada, "Didn't you guys burn down the White House?" He was bringing it up in a modern context to explain something that he was doing right now when it's no longer relevant. The relations between the United States and what is now Canada, but was then British colonies back then in 1814 when the White House was burned, are completely irrelevant to the modern relationship between the United States and the nation of Canada as it exists today. Our relationship today is not really informed or influenced by the War of 1812. I'm sure it is in some ways, because history does reverberate. I'm sure there are some things we can point to if I really looked for that are traceable back to the War of 1812. But overall, Canada is literally not the same country that it was back then. Canada as we know it today did not even exist back then. And the state of affairs between the United States and Great Britain and what we now today have as Canada is completely different. So it's a totally irrelevant reference. So I think it's different. It's a different thing to say, to bring up slavery when commenting on problems that are still apparent and alive in American society, versus bringing up the War of 1812 and the burning of the White House as an excuse for putting tariffs on Canadian imports for national security reasons. And when the Prime Minister says national security, really, U.S. and Canada, your excuse is, well, didn't you guys burn the White House? Like that, it's a totally different thing. It's already
The lightning round. Rapid fire questions. Glib and adequate answers.
Alf Benny, Ginger or Marianne? Marianne. Huh? See? Right off the top of my head. Zero credibility. Star Wars or Star Trek? Star Trek. Don't even have to think about it. Chris, any plans for a feature-length Stephen Stuffy? No. Although maybe. I don't have an idea in mind, but maybe. I'm not ruling it out. I just don't know what it would be about or how I would do it. But it's possible. No. Modest Mouse is the Beatles of our generation. Yes, you're right, Alf. I agree. Sven Gengel, my girlfriend is a bit of an ableist, and I feel like she looks down on me because I have cerebral palsy. I love her, but it hurts. How should I approach this? Oh my God. If it hurts you, you should say something to her about it. I mean, if she's your girlfriend and you love her, then I think, you should tell her how you feel and be a little vulnerable to her and say, look, when you talk like that, it really, really hurts me. And could you please make an effort to not do that? I mean, if someone was hurting you physically, if every time someone got up to leave the room, they stomped on your foot, you would say, hey, could you maybe make an effort to not do that? And if someone hurts you emotionally, you have every right to say the same thing, you know? Yeah. No. Yes. Yes, Sven. I don't know. Maybe it is time to move on. Like I don't know. I'm like the worst person to ask for relationship advice. I try to tell you what I think and try to be sensitive. But I mean, if you think that she's just not, that she's not going to change, you know, she's going to keep doing what she's doing that hurts you, even if you tell her about it, then maybe that is the only thing you can do. I mean, there's no reason to stay with someone who's going to disrespect you and hurt you, even if they're doing it inadvertently. Maybe she doesn't mean to hurt you, but that's what she's doing. And if you inform her about it and she's not willing to try and change, then I mean, you know, there's no reason to stick around. You don't have to. I just got a notification that I just picked up a new $1 patron. So yeah, thank you, new patron. I assume you pledged because I just was begging for it just now. So thank you very much.